Here we go. Dance with me. Russ, I want to see you
Welcome
dance.
to Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, akaRadioRed, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's akaRadioRed.
Thank you to the voice who gets me on the air. Radio Red is in the house. It's a Monday. Where else would I be? It happens to be U.S. Memorial Day today. And I just want to tell you all that Memorial Day was first observed in 1868, but it wasn't a federal U.S. holiday until 1971. There's a little bit of a factoid today. Any baseball fans here? Russ or David? Oh, and Erika. Oh, of course. And Vicki. Well, I have to tell you that today, Russ, I want you to mute yourself, love, because I don't want to hear the coughing. Just mute yourself. It's okay. Keep it on. It's okay. In 1935, Babe Ruth hit his 714th and final career home run when he was playing for the Boston Braves. So baseball fans, there you go. The same day, Jesse Owens, the track and field legend, set or tied 4 world records in 45 minutes at a Big Ten meet in Michigan. And I want you to know, maybe more important than any of that, in 1977, the original Star Wars film premiered today somewhere. Wow. So I just want you to know, talking about what's really important in our culture. Okay, so let me tell you what else do we need to know today? It's May 25th. It's the 145th day of the 2026 Gregorian calendar. And I don't know if Russ, you can't answer because you're on mute, but David might not know this. We had the Julian calendar, David, for a long time, and Julian had trouble with October because of a thing we call leap year now, and he didn't know what to do with it. So Gregorian came along, I think before he was a pope, and he said to his mother, I'm going to become a creative so this person named Radio Red, thousands of years later, can get on this wireless thing called internet radio, and she can talk about me. So Gregorian said, we're going to add an extra day every 4th year, and we're going to have a leap year, and the October babies got their birthdays back. And I'm a Libra, so that's important to me, but I didn't know that way back then. So thank you. 220 days are left. This is the 21st Monday, and I have to tell you all that, let's see, Mike Myers, you know, the comedian and the actor, Mike Myers, who voiced Shrek, he is 63 years old today. And Ian McKellen, who played Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he's 87 today. How about that, Vicki? And Frank Oz, the puppeteer, the Muppeteer from Sesame Street, is 82 today. It's Hamburger Day, Towel Day, it's Wine Day, it's Geek Pride Day. I'm a geek, and it's Tap Dance Day. And that's all the good news I have for you. Now let me start the show officially. Here we go. Welcome to the Creativity Show, where real life stories take flight. akaRadioRed on her Scarlett Mic is streaming live and very bright. The discovering of creativity is in our spotlight today, where resilience, reinvention, and radiance light the way. Dr. Erika Horwitz, wave hello.
Hello.
Russ Walsh, wave hello. Vicki Beck, wave hello.
Hello.
And David Hampson, wave hello. They're all here. Creative voices sharing their journeys, thoughtful, real, and sincere. We'll explore how we discover creativity fresh and new, with courage, with humor, and passion shining through. And now I have a gift for each of you, and Erika, you're first, so listen up. In Mexico City, Erika grew where curiosity found its place, the youngest of 3 siblings with compassion, warmth, and grace. At a bilingual school where learning opened every door, math, history, and public speaking sparked Erika to want to know more. When Polynesian dances captured her spirit and her heart, Erika followed stories through movements, living art. To Hawaii's shores at 19, she began a brand new scene, and there began a journey few could ever have foreseen. Psychology called her, Erika, to understand how lives transform, discovering creative pathways where healing could be gently born. Now, Dr. Erika inspires others to embrace who they can be, showing creativity and human grace can set spirits free. Erika, I hope you enjoyed that.
That was beautiful.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Officially welcome. And Russ Walsh, you're up next. In Columbia, South Carolina, just before Christmas came in sight, young Russ arrived through challenges and fought his earliest fight. With two older brothers by his side and creativity taking hold, Russ built games and backyard golf dreams with imagination brave and bold. Math and curiosity guided him as engineering called his name, Russ, Russ, while Legos, trees, and board game worlds all fueled his future flame. At USC, he followed sparks where computers met AI, creating one of the earliest systems that helped technology fly. Through decades solving challenges for innovators far and wide, Russ kept both system thinking and big picture vision as his dual guide. Now CNET and future visions reveal his hope for humanity's sea. Russ creatively imagines what tomorrow yet may be. Russ, I hope you enjoyed that.
I did. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Turn your mic off again. You can cough all you want. There you go. Vicki is next in Louisville, Kentucky. I should say Louisville, Kentucky, where Derby legends rode with fame. Vicki grew with storytelling sparks and creativity aflame. Her great uncle rode Donerail in that long shot Derby race, and Kentucky traditions still bring a joyful smile to Vicki's face. With English, drama, and adventure stories shaping dreams anew, Vicki sought novels, plays, and stages where her imagination grew. As a Delta Airlines flight attendant, she saw cities far and wide, New York, San Francisco, and beyond, with wonder as her guide. Then from UCLA to USC, where Hollywood joined health and art, Vicki helped writers shape stories meaningfully from the heart. Now an author, singer, dancer, and advocate, she helps people see creativity and compassion transform them to who they are meant to be. Vicki, welcome. I hope you enjoyed that.
That was very sweet. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And David, here you are. In Exeter, New Hampshire, where airplanes filled the sky, young David dreamed of aviation as his imagination learned to fly. Science, math, and history all captured his curious mind, while track and cross country taught endurance, the important kind. At Wake Forest University, exercise science shaped David's way, but knee injuries brought his running career to a halt one sad day. Then Cape Town brought adventure, and a blind date changed his view as business dreams and new directions gladly came into view. A restaurant became his classroom where life lessons played a part. Then aviation and entrepreneurship reconnected with David's heart. Now David shares in Rainbow Gold what purpose and success can be, building journeys that fill the soul with creative possibility. David, welcome. I hope you enjoyed that.
That was awesome. Thank you. I love it.
You're welcome. Let me close this part here. Show's over. No. So gather round where the cool kids and the cool vibes sway as we dive deep into creativity today. AKA Radio Red's energy, and Red is lighting the way. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. Okay, kids, how'd I do? What'd you think?
Amazing.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
So nice.
Good. I'm glad. I have a collaborateur. Her name is Sylvie. She's French, and we work on these. I don't call them poems. They're just rhyming intros. And now you know why I asked for your origin story rather than your media pitch 4-sentence bio. I didn't want the crunched version. I want to know who you really are. So that's what I do with them. And thank you very much. Let's go around the table and just get to know you a little bit better here. Erika, I'm putting you on speaker view, and just tell us a little more, fill in some of the dots, connect the blanks, and all of that good stuff. And then we'll go around the table and find out more from each of you. So Erika, you're up. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So I am a lover of people, and I landed in psychology, luckily, because psychology, of course, is the study of human behavior and the human mind. And my passion is really to help and to make a difference. And so I've been a psychotherapist for over 30 years, really wanting to help people transform their lives. But the biggest transformation I've ever witnessed happens to be in my own family. I have a brother who was born with bipolar disorder, undiagnosed, and for years was not well. And to make a long story short, he was about to give up on life because he was just so tortured, and instead decided to accept help. And he still lives in Mexico. I live in Canada, so I wasn't seeing him frequently. But then I started going to Mexico frequently, and his transformation was the most inspiring thing I have ever seen. He is such a stable, wise, kind, good listener, human being that he couldn't be before. So we wrote a book about his life. I convinced him we got to tell the story, because for me as a psychologist, I have never, ever seen a transformation like that in anybody. And I've ran a counseling service at a university. I've supervised hundreds of cases. I've seen many people. And so we are really wanting to let people know about this beautiful book of inspiration, whether you yourself have issues of mental health or somebody you know, or you just want to be inspired to see that creatively, because really, there was such a creative journey for him to get to where he got. And he has been stable for 15 years and really making a difference in the life of others. So I am very honored to have witnessed this and to be able to tell people that transformation is possible. If you're struggling, if you want to grow, if you're trying to write a novel, if you're trying to paint a painting, whatever your creativity is, or creatively wanting to get out of personal sorrow, that you can do that.
Find a way.
So that's my big message.
Thank you,
Yes.
Erika. It's lovely to have you here, and thank you for sharing your brother's story. Very important, and I'm glad you wrote the book. Let's go
Thank you.
around the table. Russ, I hope you can stop that cough long enough to give us 3 minutes of, we want to know all about CNET. Russ, I'm putting you on speaker view. Do the best you can, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks. It just kind of came out of nowhere, so bad timing for this to show up. But anyway, thanks so much for the opportunity. David, you and I crossed paths a while back. Good to see you again. And I stumbled on a little problem called sea level rise a few years ago when I was working at also a little company called GE, the company that invented the light bulb, and realized that sea level rise is a much bigger problem than most people are aware. You hear climate change, you hear temperature rise, you don't know what to believe and what's true, but the sea could go up over 200 feet if we don't stop it. It's happened before. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and the ocean used to come all the way up to that level. So right now, the sea has gone up about 9 or 10 inches in the last 125 years. It's expected to go up that same rate in another 25 years. And it's a problem that most people aren't aware of unless you live really close to the coast. But over the last few months, I've gotten a chance to meet with world leaders. I mean, literally prime ministers of island nations. And they're telling me, look, 5 of our islands are gone, right? So when people say, they can naysay or whatever, we're watching this happen in real time. And that didn't happen 100 years ago. It didn't happen 50 years ago, but in the last 10, we're watching these things happen. And we don't know what we're going to do. Nobody's coming in with a plan. So we've got this idea to redirect the ocean to the arid regions of the planet. Western Australia, the Sahara, Saudi Arabia, and these places. We've run the calculations. We could actually move the water, we call it the Suez Canal steroids, into these places and keep the sea from rising and possibly even take it down. So I was asked this morning to put another follow-up together to present to the UN in the coming weeks. So we've kind of risen from a crazy idea to starting to reach some of the top people on the planet about what we can do to change the game on this.
Thank you. I want to know just briefly about your backyard golf course. I want to know about the games you have created, and I want to know about AI. But you and I will have a separate conversation about your work with AI, because
Okay.
I have a show called Technology Revolution: The Future
Oh,
of
yeah.
Now, where we do predictions about AI in a different industry every week, and I'd like to get you on a panel for that if you're interested. But just tell us. Everybody wants to know, what about this backyard golf course in your backyard? Quickly, tell us. Go ahead.
Just real quick. So I was always kind of a creative little kid and stuff. And I got the chance to swing a golf club for the first time when I was in 7th grade. I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. Just PE class in middle school. And I mentioned to my mom that I liked it. And she goes, well, my office mate was on the PGA Tour. And she told him, and he goes, "Hey, I'll teach you how to play the game, right?" And he took me out on government time and taught me how to play a little bit, at least the fundamentals and stuff. So got to where I could do that. But I'm like, well, where can I practice? Well, we had an unusually large yard for a suburban neighborhood, and long enough that you could hit a 9-iron a full swing and keep it in the yard. So, but I ended up deciding, well, we could turn the backyard into a golf course, and you use little plastic balls to hit your real drives. And then when you get close enough to the hole, you switch to a real ball and putt, chip, or whatever. And it was funny because my older brothers would have their friends come over. I'd come up from school some days and 4 or 5 of them out there playing like it's real. So it was kind of a neat novelty to say that, kind of got them engaged in that.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Let's go to Vicki Beck. Vicki, welcome. And Vicki, your blouse matches the bubbles here in my background. I like that a lot. Vicki and I didn't wake up and say we're going to color coordinate, but it's nice to see that. Vicki, I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please tell us a little more about yourself and welcome?
Yes, thank you, Red. My background for career was in medical and health communications. And I worked at UCLA, at the CDC, and at USC. And the first half of my career was working with news media and journalists. And the second half was working with TV writers. And when I was at the CDC, there was a problem that we needed to solve. And I feel like my creativity was all fired up because I had been in a position where I was working with news media, and why couldn't we work with TV writers in the same way? The problem was that the people who were at highest risk for preventable diseases were not likely to get information through traditional channels, but they did watch their shows, and we had the research to show it. And of course, we all watch TV, and it has an impact on us, whether we're thinking we're learning something or not. So I was able to develop a project at the CDC to reach out to writers and producers and encourage them to contact us when they had a health storyline. Because at that time, not all health storylines were completely accurate. And that was just an exciting project to be a part of. But other than that, I've always felt like I had creativity trickling through my veins, because as a kid, I was the one to organize our play. And it was like, let's play school, and then you'll do this and I'll do that. Of course, I was always the teacher. And then let's play waitress. And I took the orders and cooked the food. And as I got older, I made my own clothes in high school because I just, saw things that I liked and I wanted to repeat it. I even used upholstery fabric to make a really interesting outfit. So as I grew into adulthood and had a home, that was my palette. I just couldn't wait to get started and to create. But something I wanted to say, though, is that my book that I've written took advantage of all my creativity, all my medical and health background. And Erika, it's going to sound familiar to you because my sister and I grew up as what's considered Irish twins, meaning that we were born 11 months apart. And she and I were dancers. We were acrobatic dancers. And I've named my book Rubber Dolls because at the age of 15, she was diagnosed bipolar. She lived a very courageous life. And I interviewed her for a year, and she wanted to be an inspiration because she had made many, many recoveries. So that was a creative project that was also extremely heartfelt for me. And I am finishing it up now. I'm excited to get it into the world because we have so many people who are either a caregiver or a person dealing with a mental illness or brain disorder. And that's really my passion right now, is to make sure that her story is told. And I wrote chapters so that one chapter's hers, one chapter's mine, because I became somewhat of her caregiver in her last years of life. But she also had a wonderful, wonderful period of time between relapses, working for federal judges in the Social Security system at one time, And then later on, owning our own home and being able to work with NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, as a volunteer. And there's just so much richness and so much inspiration in her story as well. So Eric and I have something in common. And Russ, my husband, is an avid golfer. So you were talking his talk. He represented a golf line in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina for several years. And we lived in Atlanta. That's how I got my CDC job.
Talk about intersections. I want to make it clear to the four of you, you know this, but listeners and viewers might not. I don't pick and choose my guests based on their stories or their life histories or what their books are about. I go to the National Publicity Summit. I'm thrown into 17 breakout rooms or 20 breakout rooms. I meet 3 or 4 people. I get exactly 2 minutes on the clock with a monitor with a stopwatch, and I get to write down, okay, Vicki Beck, sounds interesting. Okay, Vicki, you want to come on May 24th?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, and that's it. And it just is coincidental that we're finding these intersections because that's who we all are. So I'm appreciating it even more. And thank you, Vicki. And now, David, it's your turn. Tell us a little more about yourself, please. And
Yes,
welcome.
thank you. So as you mentioned in the poem or the recitation, I started off with a career in science and didn't study any business courses, and I started on a different path. And when I was living in South Africa, I was motivated to go into business by my wife, who I met there, and I also read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and that motivated me a lot as well. And I bought a branch for a restaurant franchise and learned everything I needed to know about business running that restaurant. Made tons of mistakes, didn't make a ton of money, but survived through it. Was able to get a wealth of knowledge. And later, after moving back to the United States, I was able to find my passion for reignite my passion for aviation. Again, it was my wife. She got me some gift certificates for flying lessons when I was in my early 30s, and I was already working into an insurance career. Insurance runs in my family. My father was in insurance, and my grandfather too. So I decided to combine my love for aviation with my insurance experience, and then ultimately we purchased a business back in 2015 that we've grown to a multiple of what it was when we first purchased it. And we now have a wonderful business with about 25 employees, and we just do aviation insurance. That's all we do exclusively. It's a real niche sort of segment of insurance. And I just love it because I have a small plane. I get to fly around, visit my clients. I fly up and down the East Coast with it. It's called a Cirrus SR-22 single engine high performance aircraft. And I work with all sorts of different clients in aviation, and I've kind of built a really nice, what I hope is going to be a business that could perpetuate to my kids someday if they're interested in it. But the book I wrote, Rainbow Gold, building a business that's both the journey and the destination. It's about building a business to last. And, media sensationalizes a startup hustle culture of like skill up and sell. And, I think that there's a better way. We can build a business that you enjoy while you're doing it. And it can have personal fulfillment by empowering employees, giving back to your community, and getting financial reward at once. And that's just so powerful and such a wonderful thing. I kind of wanted to spread that message. And I'll tell you guys that I was really bad in art when I was younger too. Like that was the one subject I didn't do well in. So I was just to kind of think of myself as not being a creative. But I realized that writing is a form of art too, right? So the written word is sort of my way of expressing myself in a creative way. So I'm glad I was able to do that with this book.
Thank you. And I'm glad you brought that up, David. Something I tell people I meet at the summit once in a while, I'll say when I'm doing my introduction on the media panel, I'll say, we're all creative. I didn't come with a manual of what I was going to do in my life. I mean, your parents tell you, your teachers tell you, your religious guidance tells you. Everybody has an idea of who you should be, what your traits are, what your passions are, but we really develop it our own. How you dress, how you answer the phone, if you still have a phone that you answer, how you express yourself, how you walk, how you talk, what your brand is. This is your creativity. So, David, I'm glad you brought it up because it's not about art and dancing and photography and acting. It's about who you are. And that's how I take a very broad brush look at what creativity is. You've created who you are, David, how you present yourself, Erika and Vicki and Russ as well. So I see it as a big picture. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you all for the added bio information. I really appreciate it. Let's quickly go. I'm looking at the clock here. We're almost halfway done, and I want to get to the creativity statements, but let's do the quotes really fast. And let's see, just take about 2 minutes and tell me what it has to do with your creativity. And I will tell you the reason curiosity came across my lips is because when I started doing the show many years ago, I would talk to my guests about what is creativity. And we'd talk about its curiosity. Right, Russ? Right, David? Right, Erika? Right, Vicki? It's about always being curious. And it's about being courageous. You have to have the courage to ask those questions, even if you're asking them to yourself. And what do you do about it? And it's being confident. I'm going to do it, damn it, no matter what anybody says, being vulnerable. So we came up with a bunch of words. That's why curiosity escaped my lips. I have no curious idea why. Erika, your quote you picked is from Forrest Gump, played by Tom Hanks, 1994 American comedy drama film directed by Robert Zemeckis, written by Eric Roth, based on a novel by Winston Grooms. Great, became the top grossing film in the U.S., released in 1994, and it earned almost $700 million. The soundtrack alone sold 12 million copies. It won 6 Oscars. Whoa. Here's the quote Erika has picked, and just take about 2 minutes and tell us what this has to do with you. My mama always said, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Okay, Erika, classic quote. Everybody smiles when they hear it. What does this have to do with you? Go.
That you cannot control life. You think you're gonna, do this. I saw another quote once that said, man makes plans, God laughs. The idea that perhaps we want to go with the flow. And it reminds me of choosing the title for this book. We had pages of possible, and talk about creative, the way my brother wrote it in the second half, where he talks about how he got better. He had miracle 1, miracle 2, miracle 3, and not from the religious sense, but just for him, it was miraculous. I looked up the definition of miracle, and it has the religious definition, but it also says something that is improbable and extraordinary, but that comes to happen. And I thought that's the title. Because what my brother did was improbable and extraordinary. So, getting creative in what does that mean that he used this word, I was able to land on. So even though life is like a box of chocolates, you don't know what you're going to get, right? Like we didn't know where we were going to get in finding this title, but then the right moment happened and we were able to come up with it. So that's
that was lovely. And I'm going to quote a word that's very often quoted from the movie Princess Bride, inconceivable. And then the response from the other character is, I don't think you know what that really means, but you do. So inconceivable, a miracle that you found the title that was perfect. Okay. Thank you very much, Erika. Russ, you're up. Russ has picked a quote that's interesting because we're in May, we're approaching the summer, and it's a holiday quote, and I'm not sure why, but I looked at it, I said, what in the world was he thinking? So you're going to help me out with this. Russ is quoting Cindy Lou Who, played by Taylor Momsen, in Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, a 2000 Christmas comedy film directed by none other than Ron Howard, based loosely on Dr. Seuss's 1957 children's books. And it's the first of 2 Seuss books to be adapted into live-action feature film, and the second adaptation of this book following. There was an animated TV special as well, and it's narrated by Anthony Hopkins. Does it get any better than that? And Jim Carrey played the Grinch. What a glitterati of stars in this movie. So Russ has picked the following quote: no one should be alone on Christmas. Russ, I was scratching my pretty red hair and saying, what was he thinking picking that quote? So why don't you tell me? Go ahead, Russ.
Sure. Yeah, I went into that movie for some reason. I'd seen the previews and I wasn't excited about it, but my kids were like, we're going to watch it. So I'm like, well, I'll be here. And then I just fell in love with the movie. It was just so well done. And, the highlights they picked for whatever the trailer weren't the best ones I think that they could have done. But the movie's just so amazing as this little girl just keeps believing in him, right? That he can be a good guy. And when she kind of at the end of the movie, after he stole Christmas and everything else, and she still went to see him and to make sure, and it just turned him around, right? But it's just one of the most powerful scenes in any movie I've ever seen, honestly. Every time I watch it, it still kind of gets you that emotion where, it's coming, but it's just so, it kind of turns the corner. And I think for what I'm doing with the CeeLo Rise stuff, I went in that kind of as a skeptic. Okay, there's not a problem here. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, there is a problem. And could we have a good outcome from this? So that's kind of why there was a parallel there. I just felt that that movie really has such a dramatic ending and such a happy ending, right? Which is good too when you see that.
Okay.
But that was the correlation.
Thank you. No one should be alone at Christmas. And I could say, here we are having a roundtable conversation, the five of us. No one should be alone thinking whether they're creative or not. David, I'm addressing you. So you are no longer alone thinking, I'm not creative. Yes, you are. And you're writing and more. And that beautiful background you've got, you are creative. So there you go. Thank you, Russ. I had to pull that out and
Yeah.
somehow help you with that. Okay, thank you. Vicki Beck has picked a quote that's a lyric from Imagine, the 1971 song by, of course, the Beatle, former Beatle, the late wonderful John Lennon. And I don't think it takes much to explain this other than shortly before his passing, he was assassinated, basically. Lennon admitted that many of the lyrics and the content came from his wife, Yoko Ono. So she received writing credit later on, and it was co-produced with Phil Spector, which is very interesting. They began recording it at Lennon's home in England in 1971, and then they did the overdubs in New York City later that year, and it was released as a single in the US. It peaked at #1 on the record world top 100, #2 on the Cashbox Top 100, #3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it hit #6 on the UK singles chart. It is BMI's among the 100 most performed songs of the 20th century. Vicki, like, I don't know you care that, but I always look this stuff up. Here's the quote Vicki has selected from the beautiful song. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one. I'm not going to cry, but I'm tempted to. Vicki, putting you back on speaker view, does this have to do with your creativity? Go.
I think,
That was a big sigh.
yeah. Well, it brings back some memories, and it probably does for everyone. I think that creativity begins with imagination. You have to be able to think it, to see it, to know that you have the courage to do it. And the song itself is such a plea for unity. And, the world is one. It's just that we don't recognize that like we should. And it's actually a really strong plea for these times today. So without getting too sentimental about all that, I'll move on. In writing my book, I never thought much about my sister's life as a text for a book, but she did. And she wanted her story to be told. And I agreed that I would help her with that. And I said, bring a chapter in and we'll work on it. She didn't have the discipline to do it. So I interviewed her for a year, creating this beautiful joint project that made us much closer and learned things that I would never have known. And then would write her chapter in her voice and my chapter, and she would review her chapter. So we did that for a full year, and it created the basis of the book. So I imagined it along with her, and she imagined her life. That's how she was able to recover. She had things she wanted to do. And she did have relapses, which is not unusual with bipolar. She had bipolar 1, which is the toughest. So anyway, it was our imagination and our joint relationship that created that book.
Thank you. Very, very well put for that quote. I appreciate that. Let's go to David. David has picked an interesting quote. David, I had to watch the clip from the movie 5 times and research to see which of the characters actually said it, and it's not the one everybody thinks. So David has picked a quote from Top Gun Maverick, the 2022 action drama film, directed by Joseph Kosinski, blah, 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 from a story by Peter Craig and Justin Marks, the sequel to the 1986 film Top Gun, Tom Cruise reprising his starring role as the naval aviator, sorry about that, Pete Maverick Mitchell, and it features Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly, John Hamm, one of my favorite actors, Glenn Powell, Monica Barbaro, of long list, Val Kilmer, his final film role, and Ed Harris. Okay, so here is the quote, and it turns out, David, that Maverick didn't say it. Miles Teller's character, Rooster Bradshaw, is the one who said it to Maverick. If you watch the clip, you see that Cruise is not speaking when the clip is said, but I had to watch it 3 times and then I researched. So here's the clip, and this is a good one. It's not the plane, it's the pilot. Wow. I think David can understand that in many different levels. David, why don't you tell us what this has to do with your creativity?
Well, I think it has, there's several parallels there. One is, of course, in aviation, we see all the time that most of the, bad things that happen is due to pilot error. It's usually not the equipment. And it's usually bad decision making or the wrong decision making that causes a situation. And I think there's parallels, so many parallels to that in life in general, right? Like in business, of course, it's usually the person driving the business that's building the culture, that's leading the organization. That's what determines what's going to be successful or not the business itself per se. And I think everyone can have that parallel in their life to many of the different things that they do, and that's what success in your life. It's not what path you choose, it's what you do with it. It's not what school you go to, it's what you do with your education while you're there. So that's why I think that's so powerful, and why it relates to, sort of what I created is in terms of building a business that's both the journey and the destination. It doesn't matter what business it is, it's what you as a leader, the driver of it, what you do with that, the opportunities you embrace. Yeah.
Very well put. Thank you very much. Thank you all for the quotes. I'll just tell you, years ago on all my shows, I told people just come up with a famous quote. Well, you can imagine how many Maya Angelou, Churchill, Twain, once in a while Shakespeare, JFK was quoted a lot, and Thomas Edison, Walt Disney, Henry Ford. After a while, I was sitting there yawning because all the quotes were the same. Everybody picked the same top 10 quotes in the world. So about 3 years ago, I said, no more real people quotes, kids. We're going to have to go through fictional. Well, a lot of people said, what in the world do you want me to do? I said, go watch. I don't watch movies. Go find us. I don't listen to music. Well, I'll send you 100 quotes. Go pick one of them. I actually have a list of 100 quotes from the shows. There are probably 1,000 of them, and they pick a quote from there. So thank you all for doing that extra work. I appreciate it. Let's go to the part of the show where we got about 20 minutes left, plenty of time. And can you all stay a little bit past the top of the hour if we go a little bit long? Is everybody good? Thank you. Okay, good. We're under no time restriction here. So, Erika, I'm going to your creativity statement number 2, and I'm going to read it and ask you to talk a little bit about it, and then we'll go around the table. I will call on each of you, but if you urgently want to say something before I get to your name, just wiggle one of your nice fingers. I don't talk to the middle finger, but wiggle one of your fingers or just wave at me and I'll see you. Okay, so Erika has said the following. I love writing in coffee shops or in cabins facing a window with a view. Okay, David. Russ is nodding already. Okay, I think I know why. Erika, I'm putting you back on speaker view. Why don't you tell us about that cabin and what you like about coffee shops? You don't have to mention a brand name, and give us more of the environment of your writing environment. That's what I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Erika.
When I don't even drink coffee, I drink tea, but there's something about going to a cafe and the door closes and you're in another world, it feels to me. And you're not necessarily interacting with people, but you're in a community, right? There's just people there. Many of them are on their laptops, some are reading, some are chatting. So there is some comfort in that. And it's getting out of my usual environment at home. I mean, I also write at home, but it's just getting out of that. But I have to tell you, when I was working on one of the last version of the book, I live in British Columbia. I don't know if any of you have been here, but it is a stunning part of the planet. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I went to an Airbnb. I didn't know how great it's going to be because we had never been to it on the island. and the window was facing the ocean, but there was trees before the ocean, and there was these bald eagles that just kept dancing as I was writing. And there's just something about that that just felt peaceful. You create that sort of that space, and then there's no, my husband would sit in the kitchen table behind me with his laptop doing I don't know what, but completely, letting me be. And all that I could see was these bald eagles that danced for me the whole week I was there working on this book. So there's something about getting away from my home environment in a way, and just being in a space that frees me from the noise of regular life to just be able to not only focus, but I think any of us that, like you read earlier, like we're all creative in many ways, but when you're doing creativity like this, there's not just the being able to focus, it's the loving it. It's the being in your glory as you're doing this, when you create that environment. I just felt, in fact, I wrote the foreword to the book because the book is written in my brother's voice. And I actually start the foreword by saying, I just finished one more version of the book as I sit in front of this window with these bald eagles dancing for me for a week. Because it was just such a gift that was really on plan. I mean, we went away so that I could focus on the book. I brought my own desk, if you can believe it, an IKEA portable desk that I could, put in front of that window. And then there was the beautiful eagles and the ocean. So there's something about spaces that allows us to create in peace.
I want to go around the table and see what everybody else has to say. Russ, I saw you nodding. Unmute there and let's see what you have to say.
Yeah, definitely. Even the first book, I wrote a draft of that in the mid 90s, and I had a lot of vacation time back then in the industry I worked in, and I used to just go to a university library every day, and I just gotten my first laptop and work pretty much 8 to 5, like I'm going to work, and do that. So I feel like I was kind of a pioneer in sort of working in unique spaces, not at home, not at my regular desk, but let's go find a new place to kind of get lost in. And now, there's a couple coffee shops within a few miles of where I live that I just feel like I can just curl up in this big, comfortable booth, huge table, and just spread out. And it's just a nice experience. I can stay as long as I want. They're open until 9 o'clock every night. Go get unlimited coffee, tea, whatever. And I'm a tea drinker, Erika, as well.
There you go.
But, and then occasionally people I know stop by, and then I've gotten to know half of the people that work there, and, we just say hello, and sometimes
Community.
it's a community. But I just remember Christmas Eve this year, our family was like, all right, we're not really doing anything until about 6:30. And I'm like, well, let me go work on the book. And I remember at 5:45, they're about to close the place, but I'm literally the only person in the place for the last 2 hours. And, some of the employees had their families come by and visit with them and stuff. And I'm like, are you guys ready to go? Because I don't want to hold you guys up. And they're like, okay, let's go. So I kind of helped them lock the door and go home and stuff. So, but it's nice. There's just something about that where, and a lot of times I go with like an objective. I really want to get this done. I'm going to stay until this is done, and I'm going to focus on that. And that really does help. There's just something about all of that.
Thank you. Vicki, does this resonate with you?
Well, actually, I've never written in a cafe. I thought about it, but somehow a part of me just wants to be in my own place until the new independent bookstore is opening across the street from me. And it's going to have a cafe area. It's going to have 2 fireplaces, and it's going to be the biggest independent bookstore in North San Diego County, which is really huge. Oh. And I'm so excited. I can't wait for it to open. And it's due to be open mid-June. So
coming up.
I'm excited. I'm actually inspired by what both of you have said.
There you go. See, we're sharing.
We're looking. The idea, just never did it.
There
Yeah,
you go. It's something you're going to try, it sounds like. David,
it
what
is.
about you? Any coffee shop hours?
Well, I did I've done a lot of my writing in the evenings at home, so that hasn't really been in coffee shops, but I can relate in the sense of like whenever I'm traveling, and I do a lot of traveling for my business, that whenever there's a coffee shop and I have time and I have work to do, that's one of my favorite places to do it because I can relate to that just being, not talking to people, but being around a community and the buzz of that and the environment and just, if there's a comfortable couch, that's always helps as well. And being able to do work. So I've done a lot of work in various coffee shops, different places I've been, and that's always been a productive and comfortable place to get work done. And it would be for writing too. I just because of my schedule of being busy during the day, I typically do a lot of my writing at home in the evening. So
Mm-hmm.
Can I
Thank
add
you.
something, Red?
Yes,
My
briefly, because
sister
we have a lot to
knitted.
do. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My sister knitted in coffee shops
Ah,
and loved doing that, especially when she lived in San Francisco for 33 years. And she just did it because it was sort of a meditation for her.
Yep.
Knitting is a really good meditation kind
Yep.
of thing. And I think it helped her through some tough times,
I bet it did. I
being
saw
able to go there and knit.
I
Yes.
do a show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's 4.5 minutes long. It's called Say What? Good News with my other
Uh-huh.
name, Bonnie D. And I look for unusual stories. And I came across a story about a man who runs in it's a walking or a running race, and he knits while he's running, and nobody can figure out how it's going to be on my show coming
See,
up. Yeah, amazing.
Can,
I want to go. Go ahead, Erica.
can I just quickly show that's my brother's photo at a coffee shop with his notebook and his coffee.
oh,
Oh my
Because
goodness.
he also, all the parts of the book, all that he wrote, he also did it in a coffee shop.
Beautiful. And I'm
Yeah.
going to expand this conversation with part of Russ's creativity statement number one. Not the whole thing, because you talk about curling up in a coffee shop, Russ, but I'm picking the second part of that. Let's see if this resonates with anybody else. Russ says, I love to review in hard copy and I mark it up with a blue pen. I love to learn and maximize every moment to learn, to love, or to accomplish important objectives. I like to create solutions with an impact on humanity. Let's talk about printing out your work and reviewing it with a blue pen. I have not heard of that in a long, long time. Russ, tell us a little more and we'll go around the table. Go ahead.
Yeah, I still am old school. I mean, I got two printers here, one in case one's down, I can still print. But especially like the book, or even just somebody sends me an email and it's like we've been on a thread for 2 weeks and this thing's like 12 pages. And of course it's backwards, right? On email, you got to start at the bottom and stuff. But like if I really need to respond to something, it's just like so easy to tear it up. Like, okay, this is important. That's important. Okay, boom. Now I get the gist of this whole thing. And it just works well for me. I also keep notebooks like this, number them and everything else. I put flags on the pages for different projects. So I can go like, here's my conversations with Tuvalu, the island nation. Those kind of things help me, because the cool thing I've learned is if you change jobs and other things, trying to remember who did you meet with 7 years ago on this project. I can go back and pull the notebook and say, I know exactly who was there, what their names were, what their titles were, and everything else. But you can't go find that, in cyberspace anymore, right? It's gone. It vaporizes sometimes after a few weeks, if not months. So that's a real advantage. And then every project I've ever worked on, I've got that whole history if I need to, even my taxes, right? Like what do we do on taxes in 2017 or whatever. So that works for me.
Very, very interesting. That's why I have about 30,000 emails in multiple inboxes, because I want to know who did I talk to 5 years ago or what did they send me. Yes, it's a different type of file keeping. Let's go around the table. David, do you keep anything hard copy and write and mark it up?
I mean, not to the same extent as Ross. A lot of my stuff has been. I have a permanent Dropbox, so I have stuff filed in, so that it's always there. But I do like when reading something, particularly like an article or a book. Yes, I like the hard copy sometimes to mark it up and look at it. And I'm sure for all of you that have written books, I mean, nothing is better than when you get the hard copy of your book when it's finally printed, right? There's something special about that you can't replicate. And even reading books, I sometimes like the hard copy. So I still like hard copies in some cases, but I have a lot of stuff digital as well.
Thank you. Erica, what about you? Hard copy?
I
Ever?
think I'm 50-50. It took me I'm very slow at going into technology, right? So I was very married to paper. Of course, I wrote a dissertation that was like 300 pages long, and it was printed. It was, many years ago. You had to print it, and your professors would, and then you'd go back and, but there's many things that I do like printing and having it in front of me, just like Russ says. Having things all electronic it just doesn't feel. Sometimes I like for the summit, I had a friend did a beautiful Excel sheet for me with columns and colors, and I ended up printing, paper and keeping track by hand.
There you
So
go.
there is just something visually more accessible, I find, than when you do everything electronically. But when it was about the book, I started printing, but then I would have to go back and do it and then send it to my brother. So in the end, we just did it all on the computer.
Thank you. Vicki, thoughts on printing, hard copy, marking up?
Well, I've been in many critique groups because I have 3 books. None are published because I was too lazy to go looking for agents, but I am committed to doing it now. And we always used hard copy to review in critique groups. And I have done a lot on the computer revising, but recently I did something that was new. And I transferred my manuscript to Kindle. So reading it on Kindle felt like reading a real book. And you look at it differently. And I highlighted anything that I wanted to go back to, because you can go back and easily find your highlights. So I found that really helpful, but I definitely find myself printing out quite a few things that I want to keep, and then I have problems trying to figure out where I kept them. So just, and those big notebooks that you have, Russ, like I have Rubber Dolls. That's the name of my book with my sister. Rubber Dolls is a thick notebook full of stuff. I have no idea what's in there. So
very interesting. Well, I have a method for saving things. I don't know if this is of interest to anybody. Whenever I finish any updates to anything, I'll save it with the letter A after the date of the document. So I might have today's date, 05/25/2026 A. And if I make a lot of changes, then I'll do A1, A2, A3. So it's not really marking up, but I get nervous that something might get lost or thrown in the trash by mistake. Never mind. Okay. Thank you very much, Russ. That was fascinating. And Vicki, I'm going to you. I want to keep in mind the clock. It's almost the top of the hour, but we're going to go a little long today. Vicki, I'm looking at your statement number 4. This is a different kind of creativity, and I think it'll open us up to another avenue. Vicki says, entertaining always sparks my juices, allowing me to decorate with flowers and place settings, try a new recipe that appeals to me. It's always a bonus when the compliments follow, whether it's a small dinner party or the Kentucky Derby Dash. So let's just get out of our comfort zone about our writing just briefly. Is there another way that you like to create? And let's just keep it short here, Vicki. I don't want to go too long, but why don't you start us off a little bit about what do you like about trying recipes and decorating a table? Because it could be, David, it could be anything besides writing in your life that you do where you're doing something creative. Vicki, go ahead. Start.
For me, entertaining is about people, bringing people into my home. And the Kentucky Derby Party is an example where I just love sharing that because of my history and growing up in the neighborhood where Churchill Downs is located. So we have created these boards that look like the double spires of Churchill Downs, and they're like large boards. And we put them out, and then I create the game that goes with it, famous Kentuckians, and everybody wears a name tag of a famous Kentuckian. And all the answers to the quiz are on those name tags. And then I do the red roses. I have to have red rose arrangements. And then the first party I did about 25 years ago, no, more than that, I went and bought fabric and created, what looked like horse theme fabric. Some of it brown and green checked, some of it with horses on it. And those were my placemats and everything I put around. So I relish in doing that kind of stuff.
I love it. I love that idea. And talk about creating games. Russ, you have to chime in here because Russ is a game creator as well. What do you think? You anything resonate with you, what Vicky said?
Oh yeah. In fact, my wife is very creative, and we moved in the place we're living right now 4 years ago, and it was just a blank slate. Like you can do what you want to with the backyard and the inside, and now our friends call it the museum and stuff. But
Oh,
you know, and I've had fun with it, being a part of it. Some of it I've had to build things, design things as an engineer to meet her objectives of what she wanted to do. But yeah, it's just it's fabulous, and we love to entertain too, as we can and host things. And she's just very creative too at how to make that something special for people, and the whole thing is just amazing.
Erica, talk to us.
I love creativity when it comes to doing things for people. When my mama turned 60, my mama loved celebrations and rituals and parties, and she was also living here in Canada, but she invited, I don't know how many people from Mexico came and friends here. She had this big hall, and she was turning 60, and I thought, what can I do that's creative? And of course, it was going to be a big cake with the candles. I bought 60 actual white candles, 60. I sent her out when we were going to do the cake. I handed the 60 candles to the guests with lighters, with matches or whatever. We turned off the light, and all the candles were lit when my mom came in to blow her candles. There was 60 candles throughout the
Wow.
room. We sang the happy birthday in English and in Spanish, and we blew the candles at the same time she blew
Oh,
hers. So I'm really creative when it comes to things like
that's
that.
beautiful. David, any of this resonate with you?
Well, one way I like to be creative actually is kind of unique is try to find really interesting places to fly to. Like if I'm going somewhere, to try to find like a really sort of, off the beaten path airport or something that has a cool restaurant or a cool place to visit. So I spend a lot of time like looking for new and creative places to visit that's sort of along my journey when I'm flying somewhere.
Very,
Cool.
very cool. And you brought back a memory, Erica and Vicky. I think you all did. For my parents' 50th, they're long gone, of course, but for their 50th anniversary, I hired a paddle wheel boat in Glen Cove, Long Island, New York for the
oh,
afternoon. I hired a caterer who was mobile. I rented a video camera that was so big I had to support it on my shoulder. This was a while ago, and don't tell me about little cell phones that weigh a couple of ounces, please. And I hired musicians, and I invited 50 people, and my family all had to dress up in sailor dresses, or all the girls. And I welcomed 50 people, and we had bench seating, like picnic table seating on the boat. And it was one of the most absolutely gorgeous days. And their anniversary was October 4th, but we did it on a September 25th. And it was a day where the water was sparkling. It brought tears to our eyes. And I got a captain's hat for my dad. And I videoed the whole thing. And I had the band playing. We had dancing. We had a very fancy high-end
oh,
menu. And I bought flowers for the table and tablecloths and everything. And it was my joy to put this whole thing together. And one more thing, when my mom turned 90, she did live to 100 years, 1 month and 15 days, and passed away in my arms. We thought she had a cough. It was
Oh,
the killer flu of 2017, and nobody knew anything about it. But anyway, for her 90th, I rented the ballroom restaurant at the building where she lived, a high-end co-op, 3 towers on Long Island in Lake Success. And I arranged for the ballroom, and I hired a chef to come and do a omelet station brunch. And Vicky, I bought sparkly, it was like little paillettes on it, like a gold color fabric, and I cut it into runners to go down the table, and I decorated the runners with little multicolored Hershey Kisses in different colors. And
oh,
I brought picture frames, and I put a black and white printer up, and whenever anybody, and no gifts, we had a mama sand chair for my mother on the ballroom floor, and people had to come up and either do a song or a speech or something to her, no gifts. And I took pictures and I printed them out on the spot and put them in one of these little metal frames and gave them to people to take home. It took
I
me
love
three
that.
months to plan the party. And it was a surprise party, and she had no idea. We had to borrow jewelry for her. She thought she was going down to the pharmacy, and somebody said, "Hey, what's all that noise in the ballroom?" They opened the door, and 55 people stood up and said, happy birthday, Ruth. It was just so that these were, yeah, I know that joy of creating an event. Yeah, and my answer to all of you is never plan a surprise party for a 9-year-old, no matter 90 for no matter how sharp they are. It's just doesn't work.
So
Anyway, yes,
Red,
dear.
my
Yes.
40th anniversary is coming up October 4th.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Can you do the repeat of that for me and my
There you
husband?
go.
I'll be there. I'll be there. Let's go to David. David has an interesting statement here. We are running over. I don't care. David, creativity statement number 2. Everybody listen up. David says, I am most creative in the early morning and the late evenings when there aren't as many other distractions. I also have had creative ideas that come to me when I'm doing intense cardio exercise. Well, this is different, David. So David, expand it, and then we'll go around and see who gets creative when. Last week, my guest said she thinks of creative things when she's in the shower, but we're not doing water today. So David, go ahead. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, obviously, more early mornings and evenings is, makes sense, obviously, because there's no distractions. I get pretty busy during the day with phone calls, emails, all sorts of stuff. And, early morning when it's quiet or late evenings when most people have gone to bed, it's just like that's a time I can just really just think and not have my mind distracted. But exercise too is a place where I do it because I really enjoy. I mean, I studied exercise physiology, so obviously I'm a fan of exercise. But I've always been into endurance exercise, and like I kind of get into a zone, almost like the runner's high. You know what I mean? Where you're like in the zone, you're sweating, and you can and then some really good thoughts come to me. Sometimes some of my best decision making or problem solving will happen when my heart rate's beating 150 beats a minute and I'm pouring sweat, and I get into the zone. So it works for me.
People call it the zone, and they call it a flow too, a flow
Right,
state
yes.
where things are just coming. Russ, any thoughts on that? Do you get ideas when I'm shooting your exercise somehow, or when you're doing something else, or time of day?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've designed things like how to remodel our house. Sometimes I wake up on Saturday morning and I don't get out of bed for an hour. The whole thing's going through my mind, how to do it, right? Every little intricate part, like boom, when I wake up officially, like I got it. And the plan's gone from I have no idea what I'm going to do to I know exactly what I'm going to do. Let's go to Lowe's and Home Depot and let's get going. So yeah, different ways that, but for me, I like to relax, like hit the bed during the day, even for 10 minutes and just not necessarily sleep, but just kind of let everything go. But boy, the thoughts that come in sometimes of, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, or hey, here's a solution to that problem. So definitely, the different ways that we all kind of respond. And
There you go. Vicki, thoughts? And I'll come to Erika last. Vicki, what do you think?
Okay, I had to get creative for this conversation because I live at a corner where trucks sometimes come. We have a train a few blocks away, and they make so much noise when they beep, beep, beep. And we have motorcycles on occasion. So yesterday, I walked through the house thinking, what are we going to do? We did a little Googling. We weren't going to go that direction and, everything they were saying. And I realized I had a leftover 5x7 rug that I could put up to the window. And my husband and I did it yesterday. So we closed the shutters and put that up. I was so afraid I was going to get some motorcycle revving past here.
We're not hearing a thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe I found that rug and realized this is it.
working.
It worked. I haven't heard anything coming through that window.
Nothing. I'm very flattered. I'm very, very flattered.
Yeah.
Erika, what about you? Odd times when creative ideas come to you? What do you think?
There's some science now that suggests that the brain keeps working when you're sleeping. On something you're trying to solve or something you're trying to create.
Yep.
So that you think you're sleeping. Well, you are sleeping, but the brain keeps. So I have been sleeping and suddenly I sit up thinking, oh, I should add this to that. Right. And so talk about weird times or where, they talk sometimes that when you're pushing so much to solve something, you get too tangled up. When you drop it for a while, right? Maybe go for a workout like David says, or you go to sleep, you kind of open the space for the answer to come to you.
Very well put. Did anybody like me in high school keep a pad of paper and a pen or pencil next to the bed because you were going to solve that last math problem in calculus in your sleep? Because I
Oh,
did. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd write down the formula and I'd go back to sleep because I realized sometimes I woke up and I had the answer and nothing to write it on. This was way before cell phones and voice memos. So yeah, so I used to keep pens and paper next to the bed, and yeah, and it was interesting times. The mind where I was also on the math team in junior high school. Is anybody ever on their math team? The kind that travels. I went to the New York City school system, but I was in Queens, and I went to Bayside High School. I think it was in high school, and it was an intramural math contest, and we would go to other schools, and they would give us 3 or 4 people on each team, and they would time and give us these wacky problems, like
Yeah, I did.
train. You know what I'm talking about. And then you were timed, and then you turned in your answer, and I was selected on the math team, so it was. Yeah, girls weren't supposed to be good in math, kids. Yes, I know. Just so you know, I'm an early woman in tech. I don't know if you know this about me, but I was a programmer analyst back in the day, and I was coding in COBOL on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 mainframe computer, and I was key punching my code. So I could handwrite 2,000 lines of code on paper on the weekend, come in on Monday morning to the office, key punch it, and have it running in production by 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday.
Wow.
so
It was,
Red, my husband,
yes.
my husband wants you to know that you are his twin.
I knew there was
He
somebody
started,
missing. Yeah, go ahead.
he was with Citibank creating some of their programs.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yep.
From California, not in
Yep.
New York.
Well, I was in
But it was,
Oregon at the time. I was in Oregon. I was in Eugene, Oregon, working for the
okay.
community college school system,
Oh, okay.
writing code for them, and then and in the high school system, writing code for
Yeah.
them too. So
I made him listen to that part of your interview.
thank you very much.
And he listened. He said, yeah, that's what I did.
There you go. There you go. We come from a different ilk. I was selected to be the opening speaker on International Women's Day in 2023 to a group of women in the group called Women in Big Data. And I showed them, Erika, I showed them pictures of what an old computer room looked like and a key punch machine. And I still have my green bar paper, and I could go into an EBCDIC core dump and find out where the abend happened, what the address of the instruction that went wrong. And the brain was just working all the time. It was exciting. And so when people say they want low code, no code, I say, I wouldn't trade my experience for anything. Being, right, David? Being there in the trenches, actually doing the work as a human. It was an exciting time. I think it was exciting.
Exactly.
Anyway, you were all just wonderful. See, this is when it gets really, really good where we're just chatting. I'll give you one other thing, talking about time of day. I decided about 8 years ago, I wanted to write a romantic comedy play. I had no idea what to do. So I went online, of course, and I looked for Playwriting 101. And Erika, I found this free download somebody had written. It wasn't even a PDF. I think it was just a Word document, free. And I downloaded it and I copied it in. It said, here's how you set up a scene. Here's how you describe your characters. Here's how you open a curtain and close a curtain. Here's how you do dialogue. Here's what the font looks like. Well, 3 nights later, from 1 to 4 in the morning, I wrote my first play.
Oh, congratulations.
I'll send you all the link. And I had a TV show on Long Island Cable called Something to Talk About. And I knew community actors. So I went to my favorite actors and I said, would you do me a favor? You don't have to learn any lines. I'll put teleprompters in front of the 3 of you. We had them against a green curtain. We had them sitting on benches. It was 2 people getting into a cab. They met on a dating site in front of Penn Station, and they got into the cab, and the cab driver was part of the dialogue. And I bought a toy steering wheel at a toy store for the guy who was the cab driver. He was sitting on a chair in an empty studio with a big green curtain, and we ran a video of Penn Station at rush hour with the 2 of them standing there as though they were there, and then a video of a van with the door open and then the van closed, and then we had the noises of New York City, the buses, the trains, the cabs, the people, and we did the whole thing. I did 2 versions of it and then edited it down to 26.5 minutes to fit my 30-minute time slot. And I will tell you, I was working full-time job in marketing for a bank in New York, but 1 to 4 in the morning was my sweet spot. It was just, and I don't know if you haven't done fiction, but I'll have to tell you that the characters told me everything they wanted me to know. They told me what they looked like, what they sounded like, almost what they smelled like, what they ate, what their habits were, what their dating history was, what their marital history was, what their parents were like, what they wanted on a date, what they didn't want to date, what made them happy, what made them. They just poured through me. David, they spoke to me. And that's how I did it in 3 nights. And it was, I'll send you all the link if you'd like to see it. I did 4 more plays after that. But sometimes that spark just comes. It's just there. You don't need to plan it. So I want to read you a couple things and then we'll close in just a couple minutes. So I have a quote here from Lucy Maud Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables. This was a 1908 Canadian author, and this is what she wrote in 1908. Chapter 19, talk about creativity. Chapter 19, she called it A Concert, a Catastrophe, and a Confession. I like that title. And here's what she said, and I dedicate this to the 3 of you. 4, how many have 4 of you? Yes, I usually have 3. Something just flashes into your mind, so exciting, and you must out with it. If you stop to think it over, you spoil it all. Russ, does that resonate with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes we do. Here's another one. Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore in the 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film in 2010 called Tangled. And the quote is, venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. Uh-huh. How many of us, right, outside our comfort zone? Okay. The Rolling Stones, you know this one, 1969. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you'll get what you need. And here's from Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, played by Billie Burke, a woman in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, the original fantasy film. And the line is, you had the power all along, my dear. And I think you all did have the power to be creative. It just needed the place and the time and the right spark. I have a quote from David Byrne, the rock star from, he was the former frontman for Talking Heads, the band, and he said, you're already more creative than you think. You just need to pay more attention to your ideas. And he collects the little beginnings and puts them in his computer, and then he goes back and says, what can I do with this? Is this a melody? Is this a song? He said, it's hard to start from nothing. I accumulate very little beginnings, and when I come back, I have something to build on. Our mind fizzes with fragments of ideas, puzzles to ponder, right, Russ? Clues on how to fix a problem. Right, David? Right, Vicki? Right, everybody? Okay. And he says, usually I need something to start with. I'll accumulate these very little beginnings. I said that already. And he says, most of us undervalue the chatter. Artists and writers systematically capture the little beginnings. There you go. And now I have an acrostic. I belong to an online poetry group, and I'm going to dedicate this to all of you. I like acrostics. So that means the prompt from the moderator, this was Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. We get a prompt every Wednesday all year, and then every day for the month of April and the month of November. So I've written about 800 poems in the past 3 years. I usually write 3 a day. Here is the prompt was night shift. Nightshift. And those are the lines of my poem. So here we go. I'll start. Never quite really at rest. It's the life of a creative. Going, gripping, gyrating, growling, groaning, growing. Highs and lows flowing on a mental Mobius strip. The days are the nights are the days again, shifting off and on, into and out of gear, hoping for unique brilliance even once. It's a calling, command, curse, roller coaster, finding Eureka, euphoria amid frustration and fears. Thus is the life of the creative. I hope you enjoyed that. That resonate with anybody? That's one of my favorites I've written in all these years, and I keep it in my notes because I just love to read it. Here's one more. This was write a blank like blank acrostic, and this is fun. This is BLANK. Like BLANK. Believe in love always. Never kiss a leprechaun in a kayak. Every boat's like a nervous kangaroo. That's blank like blank. Okay, that's one word for each letter. Russ is saying, "What is she talking about?" You know. Okay, let's close, and we're gonna dance to some new music at the end. So here we go. The top 10 tips for women. Vicki and Erika. I closed the show with this in 2014, and I saved my notes. David. Russ, I saved my notes, okay, from all the way back. So I have top 10, but the reason I keep this in my notes now is because the first one, it was a little before its time. It's a quote about Barbie, and we didn't get the Barbie music to a movie till, 2025? So the quote is, aspire to be Barbie, the biatch has everything. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Russ like that one. Okay. And don't get your knickers in a knot. It makes you walk funny. Those were tips to women. Now, here's my final closing. Don't go away. We're going to play the music in a minute. Life is short. Break the rules. I do. Forgive quickly. I still haven't figured that out. Erika, maybe you can teach me. And my therapist isn't doing that for me. Kiss slowly. Yes. Love truly. Yes. Laugh uncontrollably. Everybody laugh with me. 1, 2, 3. Not bad. Don't hurt yourself. And never, ever, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final words. Work like you don't need the money. Dance like no one's watching. I used to be a professional dancer. Had a good time teaching Latin and Lindy and hustle and line dances. Wow. Sing like nobody's listening. I didn't sing yet tonight. Thank goodness. And love like you've never been hurt, because we all have. Let your heart regroup, regrow, regenerate, and learn to love again. Let love in. Here we go. Money talks. Chocolate sings. La. That wasn't too bad. And last but not least, thank you for turning me on. I stole that line from somebody, and let's go out with this music. This is music from my new show, Say What? Good News. Oh, David, you're really going at it here. Say what? This is 1 minute long, and then we'll talk. Good news. Here we go. Morning coffee. In my cup. Scrolling. I've had enough. Same old drama. Same old feed. Flip that dial. That's what I need. Let those bad vibes fade. Get rid of those headlines. We've had enough. Hit play. Good news. We talk it out. Let's lift that mood. Good people doing what they do. Feel that smile coming through. Wave goodbye. This groove is